What's up, everyone? Welcome to the very last episode for the first season of 15 Minutes of Lame. Where are they now? I'm going to warn you ahead of time. This is going to be a dick sucking episode because it just so happens that the one of the guys on the first season of 15 Minutes of Lame is sponsoring this entire series of shows. And I'm having him on tonight to kind of close out everything. So, you know how this works. We come here, we find out if in the last 2 years, former contestants of 15 Minutes of Lame, we find out whether their reptile dreams came true or if they fucking went up in flames like JT's house. So, welcome my good friend here, Patrick McKnight. What's up, brother?
Oh my god, fucking A, man. How are you doing, brother?
Good, man.
I think we're going to hell for laughing at that joke, but it's okay.
Yeah,
I love you,
I think
JT.
no, I love JT too. He knows
Oh,
that. But fucking,
he's one of the
I,
best people in the world.
all seriousness aside, I'm gonna call him and make sure that that joke is okay
Fair
to
enough.
run.
I text him to answer your phone call. We'll see which one he responds to first.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, fucking guy. Um, Man, what have you been up to in the last 2 years?
Oh my god. Let's see, 2 years. Making lots of snakes, selling snakes, helping develop genetic testing of ball pythons, and starting a consulting company with Andre Kosovich of Kepto Reptiles. So kind of busy, I think.
Well, yeah, and in all fairness, when I first asked you to be on 15 Minutes of Lame, you were doing this for years already, right?
Yeah. So I bought my first ball python in 2000 and late 2011, 2012 time frame. Um, really, long story short, I had a dog die. I didn't want to deal with like losing a pet ever again, so I was like, I'm gonna buy a tortoise. And then while I was buying this fucking tortoise, sorry guys, this is super professional. So while I was buying this tortoise, I saw all these ball pythons. So I was like, these things look spectacular. I really love the way they look. I'm gonna get one as a pet, and bought one as a pet. And then the longer I had it, I was like, oh, I kind of want to make more, and started, I was like, I'm gonna start buying more and getting breeders involved. And so yeah, I ended up getting a group of people together to invest with me, and we purchased our first few ball pythons, and it just kind of grew slowly over time while I was in undergrad and then grad school. And then once I graduated from grad school, I started dumping like serious cash into it and really turned it into what I would say the business is now. Before that was all like owning them and breeding them loosely, but yeah, it wasn't the same as what it is now at all.
Right. It wasn't a business, right?
No, it definitely it's that awkward thing where like in my mind it was a business, but looking back, like it was run as a business, but it wasn't on the scale that I'd say you really have to be at in order to have be called a business in this industry. It, what I think some people don't realize or think about is like you can technically have a business with snakes and only put $5,000-$10,000 in, and you have a business, but you're not going to see real income from that. And so it's really
Right.
more of a hobby at that point, right? When you start dumping serious cash into it and start actually turning it into something that could be a living, I think is when it really becomes more of like a true business.
Right. Well, just like let's say in the last 2 years, since you were on the show last, how much have you invested back into this company?
Yeah. So in let's see, so 2020, I put about 80,000 in. 2021, I was close to 160 just in animals. And then this year I'm sitting at 97 right now, thousand.
Okay.
So
So,
so pushing 300K, over 300K probably.
Jesus
Um,
fucking
yeah,
Christ.
and I mean, eh, and you have to like when you really look at the stuff, and I'm having to buy. It sounds like a lot, but it's not really in like the grand scheme of things. When you think about other breeders that come in and how much money they spend, it's really not as much as it sounds. But it's kind of what you have to do to really make real income and keep progressing and growing.
Well, the game has a certain amount of buy-in that you have to do, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's just no way around that.
yeah,
You're not going to spend 20 grand on animals and be able to make a living at it for the next
No,
5
not
years.
not realistically, no. And like the animals, I had a good foundation that I was growing with over the years. But even then, like my best years before 2018, I was only making, and I say only as if it's not a lot of money, but I was only making like 40, 50, $60,000. And like that's not bad money. I get that. But it's not enough to support like my family and like replace my job that I was at before, right? Like, because
Right.
that's really the offset for me was what's a better path? Do I continue in academia or the pharmaceutical world, or do I breed snakes full time? And there's a certain income level that I needed to surpass. And when you start doing the numbers, you're like, I'm never going to get to that unless I invest seriously and really progress the projects. And then what people also don't think about when they're doing this is sometimes you're not buying animals just necessarily to advance for the sake of advancing, but it's like I set up pairings to hit specific animals. And when I miss those animals, I have to go see if I can find those animals to buy them because those are progressing projects in the future. So
Right.
sometimes even like not making the animals you need end up costing, significantly more in the long run because you have to now go buy them.
Right after you've wasted 2 years on growing them up and doing all
Dude,
this other shit.
Dude, I tried for 4 years almost for the DG Clown Pie project just to make females to hold back to produce them, and 4 years out of 4 years of pairings, I ended up with 2 females. Like and at that point, you're like, "I'm so far behind on that project," where, like, Justin and Levance and Andre, and, like, all of my friends are hitting them now, and I'm like, "I tried, I just missed,"
Right.
and it's like, "What are
Right.
you gonna do?" Right? And it is what it is, so
Well, yeah, because then at that point, not only do you have to go out and spend what that money, what that snake is worth now, but
yeah.
you wasted
Yeah,
4 years in your case,
100%.
not hitting what you wanted to hit. So,
Yeah,
it
100%. And then it's like, not only do you have to try, you either have the choice, right? You can try and buy into the project, which I've had to do a couple of times, or you have to say, okay, I missed on the triple. That sucks. How do we plan ahead now? And how do we recover from missing the triple? Well, the answer is all right. So we go for the quad. Well, what's it going to take to hit a DG hypo clown pied? Well, I'm going to need these animals. Well, how much is that going to cost me? Okay, that's going to be like 45K. That sucks, but at least it gets me, the base to attempt to hit those in
right,
3 years. And I think that's also like the planning part of that, of figuring out like sometimes you just have to cut your loss and understand it's a sunk cost, and you can't just keep going after the same thing over and over again because it won't always work out. You need to be like, all right, I missed. How do we move on and how do we progress from there?
right.
Um, I,
Well, and also in all fairness, you are a doctor. And even though you're more of a research and development guy, you're still a doctor. Like you have a foot ahead of the dude that's working at Walmart and trying to get, you know, get his snake business going.
yeah, I had so I think there's a couple of things that people also like really have to consider with like the snake business in general, right? There's a couple of ways to excel in this industry, right? Time can help a lot if you have good like vision on projects. Time can help. You can come in with a minimal investment and understand that for 5, 6, 7 years you may not make a lot of money, but if you're building towards those pinnacle projects, it can pay off in the end. Or you can dump a lot of money in up front. You see people like Miguel, Jersey Balls guys, like these people that came in and invest a lot of money up front, and their collection is spectacular, and they start making really cool stuff from there, right? And that's a way to do it. um and I was fortunate that I kind of had a tiny bit of both. Like I had the longevity of like I'd had animals, I had done stuff, it was cool, but I hadn't put the serious money in to really have projects really going well. And so I was fortunate in that my job and then my wife's job allowed us to really start dumping significant income in those first couple of years, 2018, 2019. And then from that, we started producing, significantly more valuable animals that then allowed us to roll all of that income, back into purchasing more animals and, buying new racks and
Right.
like really growing the business. So I didn't have to live off of that income for, years, which helps a lot as well.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Even the guys that do dump 4 or 500 grand into this,
Yeah.
if they could afford that, they're not depending. Like they could still live.
Yeah.
That they, if they're dumping 500 grand into a hobby,
Yeah.
they're not depending on ball python money for
Right.
to pay the electric bill. Whereas most people that can dump that in, and I'm talking even people that dump in 30K,
Yeah.
40K, um, they run the risk of losing that 30 or 40K, especially because even the young people coming into it, like I always say here, they have no idea how long 2 years is.
Oh, dude.
And when you get 6 months into it and you're like looking at this piece of shit and you're like, I spent 30 grand
Yeah.
on these dumb fucking animals that are gonna
Yeah.
make me nothing for another, year and a half,
Yeah,
2 years,
man.
if that,
If that. Yeah, if
because it's
that.
a gamble no matter what,
A absolutely. And I think too, and this isn't unique to ball pythons, but businesses in general, people only look at like the initial cost, like, oh, I can go buy these three animals. It's going to cost me $30,000 for these three animals, and then in like 4 years, I'll be able to make all this money. What they also don't think about is there's cost for racks, there's cost for
Right,
electricity, there's cost for food. So that 30K investment actually is probably closer to like 45 or 50K. They don't account for that back end money.
right,
And all of a sudden, a year and a half in, they can't even afford to feed their snakes because they're like, I didn't have the money to do this.
right,
Took out this massive loan or credit card debt or whatever it is. Like, and so I think that's also something that, like, for better or worse, like a lot of people come into this without that business sense to actually, fix the problem and, start off on the right foot.
mm.
So
Well, and that leads to another question because you're actually doing consulting now, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Um, how much of this do you think is learned experiences or, like, what's the difference between you being lucky and you being good in this hobby? Because
Oh
lu
man.
luck has a lot to do with it.
No, luck does have a lot to do with it. Look, there's a big element of luck. There's also when we say like being good, like I think being good actually just means being smart. And it's really tough to quantify what does being smart versus what does being lucky mean, right? Because if you come in and your favorite project in the world is albino, and you buy a bunch of albino because that's what you love, like you're probably not going to be super profitable. It's just not a super profitable project, unfortunately. On
But it would have been 15 years ago.
Sure, 15 years ago, but we're
Yeah,
talking today, right?
right, yeah,
If on the other hand, if your favorite project in the world is Desert Ghost, you're probably going to be okay because those are going to be animals that sell and go from there. So I think there's a lot of luck in that sense. There's also luck in hitting the odds sometimes. Like it's hard to make some of these animals.
yeah,
Um, what I have found in the people that Andre and I have really started interacting with is a lot of people are good at one side or the other. Like they're either good with the snakes and they have vision, they just have no idea how to really like get the business up and going and market themselves and organize everything appropriately, or they're really good on the business side. Like they have the numbers down, they understand what's going on, but they absolutely blow when it comes to like projects to like set up and run.
right,
And so I think that's actually, with this, business that Andre and I are doing, like we actually mesh really well because Andre like has a lot of really great vision and he's really good at like long-term planning and also being very like cutthroat. He's the guy that's like, your animal's terrible, just put it in the freezer, move on. Like, and meanwhile, I'm over here like, but if you love it, you should keep it because its name is Dumbledore and it's pretty. Um, so so I
oh,
think it's a good two-edged sword there coming in and trying to help people, give them the guidance to help them be good at like maybe not great at both sides but good at both sides.
right,
But yeah, I do think a lot of people bring in one side or the other. It's just meshing those two together can be difficult, and if you're not willing to listen or seek out help at all, that's where you really start seeing like people flounder, and you see these people that come in and invest $300,000-400,000 in a year, and then they're out in a couple of years, and it's not because generally it's not because they're bad businessmen. It's because they had no idea what projects they were buying. They were just buying expensive stuff for the sake of buying expensive stuff, and there was no vision at all of where they were going with it. And so within a couple of years, those animals that were worth two or $300,000, they're now worth $100,000, and they're producing animals that are worth significantly less as well. And it just flames out. And that's
right,
just the way it goes if you don't plan things out at all.
right. So, would it be safe to say that your ball python dreams are fucking still alive and growing?
Man, I'm gonna have a slight humble brag moment here, and it was like, and I'm gonna take this, and it was I had dreams and aspirations when I first was like, I'm gonna start this company, and I remember like reaching out to Justin and trying to get him to answer a phone call, and he wouldn't answer my phone call to buy a fucking $300 Het Lavender albino. I'm not bitter. I've moved on. Anyway, and so, like and I remember, like, the first time in 2015 when I hatched this really cool snake, and I was walking around Daytona trying to get people to just look at a picture of this fucking snake on my phone and acknowledge my existence, and nothing happened, right? And so then, fast forward to August, and I'm in Daytona, and I'm at a dinner Friday night with Chase from, Canova, Steve Russis, JT Tomlinson, Andre Kosovich, Dale Porcher, like all of these like big hitters in the industry, people that invited me to dinner to go hang out with them because they're close personal friends. And I'm like, and I just kind of sat back in a moment. I was like, holy fuck. Like these people that I looked up to in the industry and like never thought I'd ever have a chance are like texting me, asking me why the fuck I'm taking so long to get to dinner. Like,
Right.
and so it was that moment where I was like, yeah, I'd absolutely say my dreams have come true. Like, this has been fantastic, and I never expected it to be what it is, and I'm so honored, like, to be where I am. It's
Right.
exciting, and I do feel like I'm kind of starting to make it into the big kid club, and it's exciting.
Yeah, no, no, it's definitely fun. I remember, um, the way that we got, in with these breeders was to just buy
Yeah.
expensive animals, you know,
No, I mean it's a
because
great strategy.
yeah, yeah, because I'm just like I already know I'm a likable guy,
Right.
okay? But in order to jump that line, we had to buy,
Sure.
eventually, like, and now all those guys that you mentioned are personal
Yeah.
friends of mine, and
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we go out, we go to dinner, we hang out, we do all this, and it's kind of funny because I'm in a position where I could be involved in all this dumb shit, but I don't have to keep this dumb shit.
Right.
So, like, I don't have one snake in my house, man.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
you know?
Yeah.
So, but, I'm still friends with all the people
Yeah.
that we established a relationship with. So believe me, I know what it's like to feel like you're in the big guy club, but you're taking it a step further, and you're involved with, like, the genetic testing thing.
Yeah.
You're involved with consulting I mean, JT had you, flown down to fucking Texas to fucking help him out, right?
Dude, I loved
And
it.
that had to be a great feeling.
Oh, it was awesome. There's you feel validated. Funny story, that Daytona, maybe it was 2016, I can't remember the exact date. That Daytona, you were there and Justin was actually there. And I remember seeing you and Justin sitting at this fountain having what in my mind was the most, you know, intense conversation ever. And I'm going down this escalator with my wife. I'm like, oh my God, that's Chris and Justin. Oh, I kind of need to go talk to them. And she's like, go talk to them. I'm like, no, no, they're gonna think I'm an idiot. And I remember like,
Yeah, yeah, you know what's funny is I could tell you exactly what we were talking about.
yeah,
Number 1, I was calling him fucking gay for eating yogurt, frozen
probably.
yogurt,
Yeah.
and number 2, I was like, "I don't know if I'll go out with you if you're gonna wear that salmon
Oh,
colored shirt,"
I
you know?
love that. That's amazing.
So
So yeah, no, it does feel great. It does feel great to like uh, be able to help people as well in the industry. Going down to JT's and like sitting down with them and going through everything and kind of walking them through stuff, and then have them say like, "Man, I really appreciate that." And then have them like spread the word and tell people how much we helped. Like that does feel good. It's good when large breeders like that acknowledge what you're doing. Having like Steve Russis. We talk all the time about his collection and trying to help him get stuff going. And like I mean, you're talking about somebody that's probably produced, if not the most ball pythons of all time, pretty close. Definitely top 3 or 4. Like, and that's
right,
cool.
right,
It's a good feeling. So yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, man.
Well, I remember the exact time when I realized that you were bigger than I thought you were, where you called into a Zoom call, I think,
Uh
from the
huh.
car.
Oh
And,
yeah,
this was like 2 years ago, right? Or a
yeah,
year and a half ago. And I'm like, "Where are you heading?" And you're like, "Yeah, dad, we sold a collection. We're heading down to Florida, or whatever."
yeah.
I'm like, "How much money did this guy spend with you that you're driving down to fucking Florida?" And right on the Zoom call, you were like, "I don't know, 60, 70 grand." And I was like, "What? What?" this guy was on 15 minutes of lane. Like
Yeah,
fucking how
man.
the fuck did he do that? But I'm way happy to see
Appreciate it, man.
how mega successful you are. Because you're just one of those guys where you have your hand in enough stuff that's not ball python related. Well, I guess technically it's
Yeah,
ball
blue
python
sleeve, but
related,
yeah, no, I
not snake related.
honestly, like, I think my greatest, trait, personality trait is actually the stuff outside of all pythons. Like my skill sets actually cater more towards the business side of all of this. And I fucked up a lot early on, and people that I connected with and trusted and got guidance from on snakes, and I really fucked up, and probably hindered me a lot. And then once I got connected with people like JT and Andre, like Andre really helped me a lot, and like the guidance and the vision side of stuff. And yeah, so I think the traits outside of the ball pythons actually are what helped me a lot. So like I think that's why I have my hands in so many things outside of just the breeding ball pythons, because I enjoy all of that stuff just as much, if not more, than I do the snakes themselves. So
Right, right.
I, th- I,
Well, what do you think about this fucking new breed of fucking ball python dickheads that fucking make me want to kill myself by saying, "Oh, I want you to do good. You're gonna do incredible. You're the best guy ever." I mean, if they only knew what was going on even
yeah.
5 years ago,
Oh yeah,
where
man.
where someone would stab your mother in the
Dude.
back to make an extra $20.
It's night and day. When I look at the breeders I interacted with early on, and not just like the lies, but the animals I bought that didn't prove out, and
Right,
the horror stories you hear of shit, versus now, yeah, it's very different. I probably fall a little bit in between. Like I I'm competitive to a fault. So like, especially like, when Andre like hits a really cool snake, he's a really close friend, but when he hits a cool snake, I'm like, fuck you. But I'm
yeah,
also like happy for him too
right,
on some
right,
level, like because I am excited. I appreciate that if other people succeed in general, that can also help my business. So I do get that. And I do want people to hit cool snakes because it can help me expand. But at the same time, like, I still want to make stuff first. I still want to make cool shit. So sometimes it's kind of like, well, fuck you. I wanted to make that first.
yeah, yeah, that's
So I
how it
get it. It's
goes.
like I think I fall kind of in the middle, and maybe that's just because I did start in an era where, man, those old guys were angry ass motherfuckers. Like people don't fully appreciate how angry like Peter Call and Ralph Davis could be. Like fuck
Right.
those guys, they could
Yep.
be assholes. I mean, oh man,
Absolutely, absolutely.
like fuck.
I
So
I mean, we spend so much money with Ralph Davis.
yeah,
And, I think we sold for, like, Pete Cobble, but those were the days where there was no PayPal, there was
no,
no there was King Snake, and that was it.
yeah,
You have these motherfuckers telling you to send you money in a Sports Illustrated,
yeah,
just FedEx to me, and you're like, "You sure? It's 15 grand I'm gonna put in a magazine and fucking FedEx
yeah,
to you?" And they're like, "Yeah, absolutely." Where like nowadays, if you asked any of these young guys to just throw 15 grand in a fucking FedEx envelope, they would be like, "You are out of your fucking mind. I'm not doing that," you know?
dude. It's surreal now. I won't say the breeder, but I sold a snake and I received almost $15,000. It was like 12.5, I think, in cash in a FedEx envelope, and I was like, "This is uncomfortable." Like, oh
Yeah, you feel like a fucking drug dealer in the middle of fucking
yeah.
Panama,
And you're
right?
like,
Like,
"I don't know what kinda embezzlement's going on right now, but this is uncomfortable." Yeah, it's definitely different. When I started, PayPal was still relatively speaking like the main way to pay, or wire transfer like high-end stuff.
right.
Uh, but it was still like, man, those fuckers were still shady as shit. The first, actually, was it I think it was the Wilbanks show you did a couple weeks ago where you're all talking about, was it Joe Capone from Reptile
Yeah,
Morphs?
yeah,
He was my
that's
first snake I ever purchased. I purchased a pair of pastel clowns from him. When I bought them, they were supposed to be like 400 grams a piece, and I think I paid like $2,500 a piece on them, which was a steal at the time, and now I know why. But when they showed up, they were like $250 or 250 grams and like emaciated and like just awful looking. And I was like, "Oh fuck you!" And you message the guy, and you're like, "Dude, like this isn't at all what I bought. Like, what's the problem?" He's like, "Well, I just didn't have food, so fuck off." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. I
dude.
guess that's what we're doing." So
We spent about 6 grand with him,
yeah.
and maybe 2 of the snakes proved out as
Oh,
heads,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
maybe, you know,
It
it was ridiculous.
no, it
I mean,
is, man. It is,
guys
and
today don't get that struggle that we had to go through, you know?
no, it definitely feels I mean, there's obviously still some shady ass motherfuckers in the industry. Like, there's no question there's still scams and shit like that, but I'm willing to bet, and this is just, reckless speculation. I'm willing to bet though, like when you buy a het from somebody at this point, there's like a 95% chance it's going to work out. Like it just
Right.
feels like in general, the industry has matured to a level and there's enough people out there that the odds of hitting like the real shitheads is a lot lower than it used to be. And customers are still fucking awful sometimes. But like, when you're buying, I think it's pretty safe nowadays compared to, yeah, back in the day. And there's horror stories of even, some of the really big guys, that were, selling heads that definitely weren't proven out and not small numbers, right?
Oh, yeah,
They're
yeah.
ripping people off for 200K potentially.
Yep.
So, and that was some of the most well-known breeders at the time. And I still wonder how some of those guys, if the stories are true, and I know one of them is true because,
Well, the one thing that still remains true to that is that you could pretty much fuck up anything,
yeah.
and 3 months later, it's forgotten about
Oh,
now.
it's shocking, isn't it?
You know,
Yeah, it
like that
is.
dickhead with, that cursed out Texas saying they should have been more prepared and all that. That
Oh,
motherfucker's
yeah.
still selling snakes.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
still, he's still killing it.
Oh, no, yeah. Not only is he still selling snakes, everything is still just he lost maybe 1% of his followers over that, and it's
Right.
just like and that I mean, you fucking shit on, like, a whole fucking state,
Right.
and then, like so you have, like, this whole state that should be angry at you in theory, and then you have all of these other individuals outside of it that are like, "You're a fucking asshole," and, yeah, within I mean, I don't even know if it was 3 months, Chris. It may have been 2 weeks and people moved
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
I mean,
it might have
honestly,
been, yeah.
like, it was quick. I mean, I don't see him as active on social media anymore. Um, but yeah, man, it is. You're right. Like people move on so fast, and you're just like, does it really matter at the end of the day? And that's why, and we're in the know, right? Like people that are active on social media, like we see these people and we interact with them. There are there's a layer that the industry's infinitely bigger than we realize. It's not just outside of our
Right,
circle,
right,
and 99% of the people in this industry have no idea what's going on the level of like the scammers and like what happened with ball pythons 101 and all those guys, right? And so scammers just feed off of those guys
right.
because it's like the mom and pop people that are like, oh, I just bought my first $400 snake and yay, life is good, and then it dies 2 weeks later because it had an RI and was super neglected. Like scammers like that exist all the time, and they
Well,
feed
I mean,
off
the biggest guy, or right, like Bob Clark even had that problem this year
yeah,
where, it was I mean, this is a guy that I grew up with, that I
yeah,
fucking, read about in National Geographic and all that.
yeah, absolutely,
And
man.
that dude just handled the whole situation ass backwards, you know? And I'm not saying that he could have got out of it quicker and easier, but he could have just been like, dude, I make $2 million a year. I'm gonna
Yeah.
give this girl her 400 bucks back, pay for her vet bills, and hopefully she won't curse me out online. Instead
Yeah.
of doing that, he's like, "You care for the animal wrong. You're a woman. I'm gonna mansplain to you." I'm like, dude.
Dude, but I mean, that's why I firmly believe a lot of the old school breeders died.
Yeah,
And when I say died, not like literally, like
right,
in the
right,
industry. Um, eh, there was a period of time, and I've told, I've had this conversation a couple times with Steve, and it's like ball pythons were so lucrative early on that it didn't matter how good of a businessman you were going to make obscene amounts of money if you could
right,
get them to breed. And so
right,
these guys, the founders that were able to get these things to consistently breed, made stupid money. And it didn't matter if you fucked over one customer because you had 37 people in line to buy a
right,
goddamn spider. Like
right.
awesome.
Yeah, they were
And
lining up to give you 20 grand.
absolutely. And nowadays, it's still that way to some degree with the high end animals. Like I'm not shitty to my customers, but I'm definitely more terse with certain things with higher end animals. especially when there's like 5, 10, requests on a single animal. But when you're dealing with like $400 or $500 animals like that situation with Bob got stuck in, man, just refund it, pay the vet bills, and move on because you're not going to win against the internet, right?
Right.
She's going to raise holy hell. And for somebody that I imagine, eh, somebody at Bob's financial level, what I imagine Bob's financial level is after all of these years, the amount of money he would have had to, miss out on just to not have to deal with that headache is absolutely worth it in my mind.
Right.
Uh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
eh,
Even if it cost him 5 grand.
I
You,
mean,
you know, I mean, Bob's in a position to fucking be like, yeah, I'll just throw the money at it.
dude,
Fucking,
I'm
it's
not
no
anywhere
problem.
close to Bob's income level, and a couple of times this year where it was like I didn't feel like I was in the wrong, but I was like, you know what, like here's like 2,500, 3K, just move on. Like, let's just call this a loss. It was a bad
Right.
transaction. I'm sorry. Like, let's just move on.
Well, and
Um,
that's not saying that there's not shitty customers, right? I mean, because there are.
oh,
Because, what I've found out even, 5 years ago when we were
yeah,
still in business, the 5 grand guy is like, "Yep, here's the PayPal, I'll write a check, thanks." And it's the 3 and $400 guy that fucking calls you 35 times, that fucking calls you 2 years later if the snake didn't refuse the meal.
man.
I mean, these are all ball python fucking cunts, you know?
It, I want to say it's like exhausting, and I try to be a little. So I used to try to be more understanding. I'm less now. And all of it stemmed from I sold an animal to an individual. Uh, it was a couple of months old. It was well established at my place. Sold it to her, and a week later she told me that it wasn't eating, and I was like, well, I told you to wait a week before offering it food, and maybe like wait a week and let's see what happens. So a week later she reaches out and she's like, it's still not eating. And I was like, okay, that's weird. I'm sorry to hear that. And I was in like a kind, understanding mood that day for whatever reason. And I was like, look, don't handle it for well, I should step back. I was like, "Okay, how have you been taking care of it?" She's like, "Well, I've tried to feed it every single day." And I was like, "Why the fuck are you trying to feed this snake every day? Like, stop handling it, stop trying to feed it. Like, just let it be for a week. And if in a week after you not doing anything, the animal's good to go and it eats, like we're fine. If it doesn't eat, you can just send it back to me. I'll refund you and like we'll move on and we'll just call it a loss." So, not a full week, like 5 days from that message, I get an email, "Hey, she ate today." And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, you still didn't listen to what I said to do after I was trying to be understanding, like, fuck you." Like, come
Yeah.
on. Like,
That's
I
the worst when
right,
you offer that advice and they don't listen
just
at all.
blatantly and I'm like, "Look, I'm happy it ate. I had confidence it would, but, like, okay, so you were feeding it every day, you were handling it every day, you're surprised it's not eating, and then when I tell you, like, just give it a week to, like, calm the fuck out, you're like, it's been 5 days, good enough." Like, what? And so then it's like so then, of course, that puts this negative skew on every customer interaction you have from that point on, and you're like when the person's like, "Oh, I'm having problems," you're like, yeah, but, like, is it because you're doing something really, like, dumb, or is it because, like, there really was a problem with the animal? And it's tough, and you kinda get jaded towards customers, and you try not to, but
Oh, yeah.
it happens.
Yeah.
I think I've been fortunate in that most of the potential shitty customers, generally weed themselves out pretty quick in, like, the back and forth before the sale. um, I've been fortunate in those, those individuals. For whatever reason, I seem to bring out the worst in those messages occasionally, and I'm like, "Oof, I'm glad I didn't sell you a snake because this went very
Yeah.
poorly."
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, that's the worst. So, last year, I had 2 clutches, right? I had 2
Yeah.
snakes here, and I had 2 clutches. I was so aggravated, right? And I was like, "Fuck me," right? So, I put them up on Morph Market. I was just like, I mean, they were clowns and,
And
shit like
spot
this.
nose clowns, right?
Well, a spot nose
Yeah.
clown and, but there were also like just
Some
pastel clowns
yeah,
and,
sure.
regular clowns.
Sure.
And, I put them up on Morph Market and they're like, "Yo," I get messages that say, "Yo, I'm really interested. Could you take more pictures?"
Oh,
And I just answered back, like, 1 word. I'm like, "No," right? In fucking return, right? And the amount of cursed out emails that I got back saying, "Man, I thought you were cool. You're a fucking dick. You won't take a few more pictures. I'm spending $400 here."
Man.
And I was just like, "Listen, dickhead, I'm not gonna take 25 pictures of a $400 fucking snake for you. It's just not worth
No,
my time. And,
no.
and they just didn't get it. And it reminded me once, like, I was at the casino, one of the casinos here, and I hit for like 12 grand, right?
Right?
But it was just on a machine that a woman left, right?
Mhm.
And and but she saw me hit the 12 grand,
Oh,
right?
no.
And she's like, you know you're you're giving me some of that money, right?
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, I'm not gonna say, what race or nationality she was, but it was definitely someone who you knew would give you a hard time,
Oh,
right?
fuck, okay.
So she's like, "Motherfucker, I came here and I spent $200." And I was like, "Bitch, I don't even come here if I have $200." Like, are you crazy? And, finally, the one of the, the staff had to fucking walk her away and fucking throw her out.
Wow.
And that's what ball python people remind me of,
Yeah.
you know?
It's this weird thing, so I try to be mildly amicable to picture requests if they have a specific thing they're looking for. So, like, I take one picture, I try and do my best to get, like, more or less a full body shot in the head and make it clear because that's mostly what people are looking for.
Right,
If somebody reaches out to me and is like, "Hey, can I get more pictures?" My response to a T almost every time is, "Sure," or it may not be sure, it may just be, "Is there something specific you're looking for, that I can take a picture of?" And that does a really good job for me of weeding out a lot of people that are just tire kickers. If they come back and they're like, "Hey, can I see a picture of the belly or the sides?" Like, fine. At least you have a specific thing you're wanting to look at for whatever reason. And I'll
right,
I'll I'll take pictures. I've done that on, $100 snakes. I've done that on $5,000 snakes. I get it sometimes. What kills me is when they're like, "Can I get more pictures of the pattern?" And you're like, I mean, the picture basically shows all of the snake's pattern. Like, what more do you want? And then they're like, "You fucking asshole. You think that you can sell a snake without taking more than one picture? Burn in hell. This is a high dollar snake." And I'm like, okay, man, like, I just asked what specifically you wanted because, like, what you asked for pictures of is clearly in the picture. Like, so
yeah,
what more do you want? And those are the customers that exhaust me. And it's just like, you're not entitled. Like, the customer is not always right. I don't have to fucking sell you a snake, and I don't owe you a fucking snake to sell.
right,
Um,
that's right,
I want to sell snakes, guys. That's what I make money off of. Uh, I want to sell snakes, and I want to help customers be happy because generally happy customers are repeat customers. But at the same time, like, you got to work with me a little bit, Like, if
yeah,
you want a picture of something cool, let me know. I'll go take the picture. It's okay.
right,
But at the same time,
yeah,
like, fuck you if you think like I have to take a picture of this because you want it. Like, that's not how
right,
this works. And
right,
I'm fortunately in a situation where I still don't have to have the snakes to survive. Uh, I have a university job that I still work, part time. So I can sit on a snake for a year and it's fine.
right,
Like,
right, yeah,
I'm
and
not
you're good
worried.
with that, yeah.
I'm good
Well
with it. I got space and I breed my own rats, so it costs me nothing to keep a snake. So
even when we were, doing it full time with eyeballs, and people would ask for more pictures of
yeah.
a sub $500 snake.
Hmm.
My immediate response, verbatim, was, "Where are you from?" Okay, and I had a list of places like
Yeah.
fucking. If the guy told me Gary, Indiana, I just fucking put him on block and never talk to him again. If a guy told me like fucking Monroe, North Carolina, I fucking
Yeah.
just cut him off because
Oh,
you know that those are the tire kickers.
oh
But
man.
you tend to weed them out relatively quickly once you know what's
Yeah.
going on.
There, it is interesting. Like, you start, the more you do it, and the more you sell it, you start getting a vibe just off of initial messages too. Like, is this going to go poorly? Yeah, it probably will, or it might
Right,
not. And it's funny you say, like, you block them. Like, my wife all the time, she's like, "Just block them and move on with your life." I'm like, "No, because maybe in the future they're gonna buy a snake, and that just shows how much of a whore I am for money." Because I'm like, they can abuse me the first time, it's fine. If they come back and they want to spend money with me, we're good. Like, that's fine.
yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's
I'm a whore for money too, but fucking there's yeah, I think it comes with age where the older you get, the less
is
tolerance
that
you
what it
have
is?
for yeah,
Okay.
for bullshit,
Yeah. No, that's
To
fair.
be
That's fair. I get that.
the the 12 email chain of asking questions and then the final one being, let me just check with my wife. Those are the ones that really tend to, you know,
Man, yeah.
and you just expect that with all of them.
Yeah.
except for the high dollar ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, 99% of our high dollar snake sales were always like, "Oh, I saw that picture on Morph Market. Yeah, I'll take it." Fucking 5 minutes later, PayPal,
Yeah.
you got money, you know?
Yeah. I
It was the low end motherfuckers,
Oh, absolutely. I
you
mean,
know?
and maybe this isn't the best thing to say out loud, but I aside from a purchase I made last week, um, probably my last 10 or 15 snakes I bought, I never saw a picture of. I messaged the breeder and I said, "Hey, I need this animal. Do you have it?" And if the answer was yes, I paid for it without ever seeing it. Like
Yeah,
that's just like I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, ball python people don't care about quality and blah 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 blah." But like, and maybe to some degree that's true, but at the same time, we just need the genes sometimes. And it's like there does get to a point where it's like it doesn't matter what the snake looks like. If I want to work in that project, I just need to get that animal. And sometimes there's only one available.
right.
And so I think there's a little bit, I try not to be jaded on that side where I'm like, well, I don't ask for pictures. Why the fuck are these people asking for pictures? And it's like, well, not everybody has my mindset. I get that. But like still it's exhausting sometimes where I'm like,
Yeah.
this person's
Well,
like, I'm gonna spend $400 with you. I need more pictures. I'm like, I just spent $7,000 on a snake and I have no idea what it's gonna look like until it shows up tomorrow at FedEx. Like,
yeah, but wouldn't you say it's true that when you get to that tier of the industry, there's a little more trust involved because obviously odds are the person
generally,
or,
yeah.
you at least know of them.
Yeah,
Like if I needed something from Miguel and said, "Do you have this?" And he was like, "Yeah, I got it. It's 5 grand." I would just pay them,
yeah.
say, "Send it to me when you can."
Yeah,
So
I think for the most part that's fair. There's been a couple of people that like I didn't recognize. And, I'll send the text messages out to like my network and be like, has anybody ever heard of this person? And if nobody's
right,
heard of them, I'm generally a little more hesitant. And I'll definitely be paying with a credit card just so that there's purchase protection. I can,
right,
you
right,
know, uh, which, I know some people hate that. And I generally cover the 3% fee if I am paying for a credit card. But like in reality, that's like sometimes the best way to protect yourself because you can do a
right,
chargeback if it's shit. So that's the only way. Like if I'm buying from somebody I don't know, and it's a relatively large purchase, it'll always be on a credit card. I'll pay it off immediately, but it's going to be on a credit card, so I have some protection there. So,
right.
but yeah, you're right. Like for the most part, it's people I know. There's probably 15 or 20 breeders at this point that I do most of my business with, and it's just honestly, they're the ones that have the stuff I need, and
Right.
it's
But also you spent 8 years weeding out
yeah,
the shit,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
and like you said, nowadays to a point, with social media and everything else, you kind of could get a feeling for a guy just from their posts, so,
Oh yeah,
um
real quick, you can definitely go into Instagram or Facebook a lot of times now and look at the presents. And there's been people that reached out to me to buy stuff that I had never heard of, and buying relatively expensive animals. And then I go and look at their Instagram, and they have 20, 30,000 followers. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I've never heard
right,
of you. That's
yeah,
crazy. Like,
yeah,
all right,
seriously.
cool.
Yeah,
Like,
so many guys that I would buy from, or even that I wouldn't buy from, I
yeah,
go check them out, and they have way more followers than I
yeah,
have.
yeah,
And I'm not saying, like I have 2,000, and they have 2,300 or
yeah,
3,000. They
mm,
have like fucking
yeah,
40,000 followers, and because one time they made a video with some shitty vlog music on the back of it at a reptile show
yeah,
and they got like fucking 75,000 views on it. So
dude.
it's just fucking
It's
ridiculous.
funny you say that. So I'm in that boat actually, ironically. So I only have just over 10,000 followers on Instagram. I'm really bad at staying up on my content, and I probably could do better, but it's just not going to happen. And until my 16-year-old niece starts getting to work in my building and actually taking pictures of snakes regularly, it is what it is. But I had a picture of a tortoise destroying my bathroom in my house that went ultraviolet, made it onto the front page of Reddit, and like 3 million views later, and I probably got like 4 or 5 thousand followers just off that one fucking
Right, right,
picture.
right.
And I'm like,
Well,
cool.
I remember that picture,
Yeah,
right? And the same thing with me with my 18-year-old niece, and I need to hire her to do
yeah.
my social media, right? Because I tell her whatever I post on Facebook, I just copy and paste and put it on Instagram. And she's looking at me and she's like, "You don't even use Instagram." She's like, "First of all, you are way too old to be on Instagram or TikTok or
Yeah,
whatever." right? And I agree with her. But I don't even do it the right way, like post to Instagram and then have it copy itself to Facebook, right? Like,
Sure. Yeah.
like I physically old school control C, fucking control V.
I love
Um,
it. I
but
love
I
it.
just don't care, you know,
Yeah.
and it's to the point now where, dude, I sell a lot of shirts, right? So
Yeah.
fucking I know people are listening, right?
Yeah, sure,
So
exactly. Yeah.
I don't need to be on top of that. I don't need to go to every fucking show.
Right.
I don't need to, do all this shit because fucking going to a show at 49 years old, I found this out in Arlington, is exhausting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I literally left Arlington at 1 o'clock each day just because I'm like, "I need a fucking nap, man."
Right.
But, like, this is brutal. Like, I can't be just talking to people. And I must have took, like, 200 pictures there with
Yeah.
strangers, and after every picture, I'm like, "Welcome home, COVID." Right? And
Oh,
fucking I just knew I was gonna get COVID, right?
dude, I got COVID in Arlington at
You
I
actually well,
I
you got it, but it wasn't bad, but your wife fucking got it
yeah,
bad, right?
yeah, man, like, I got it, and then, my wife got it really bad, but yeah, man, it's funny, like, how you say that, and, like, I felt the same way, like, I'm nowhere near the level of known as you are, and, like, people wanting to take pictures and stuff, but it was weird, after the podcast we did with Ben and, like, people seeing my face, 'cause for the most part, my face is not out there at all, like, it's
Right.
not any of my Instagram, it's not really anywhere, so that's the first time a lot of people saw me, my face for better or worse. And so it was weird after that though at the show, people come and be like, "Hey, I've known your name for a long time, but I never knew your face." Like, "Hey, taking
Mm.
pictures." I'm like, same thought. I'm like, "I'm gonna get COVID,"
Yeah,
and then of course I
exactly.
got COVID, and I'm like, "Fuck."
And the
So,
problem with Texas is literally everybody is sticky, okay?
well,
And
yeah, it's a
not
thousand
good
degrees
sticky.
there. No,
Yeah, but yeah, I was just gonna
no,
say it's not good sticky. It
no.
was that fucking I'm sweaty and want to hug you.
Oh,
Now, I definitely if you're a good looking chick with big tits, fucking come up and hug me. If you're a 300-pound dude and fucking want to come hug me, I'm just like,
dude.
dude, I would just give the buddy hug,
Yes.
like the 3 pats. "Dude, how are
Yeah.
you?" That's fantastic.
You
Um,
you haven't lived till a hot, sweaty, smelly JT comes and gives you a giant bear hug, trapping you in his armpit. Man, that's the Texas experience right there.
that really is, man. It's, and everybody wants to hug you, the guys and the
Yeah.
girls,
Dude, everybody,
and
so I'm allowed to talk shit about Texas to everybody that doesn't know because I'm from Texas. So I'm allowed to
Mhm.
do this. But like Texans are overly friendly, overly nice, and they're all huggers for whatever reason. I don't
Yeah.
know why. Every one of
Yep.
them. And so
Yep.
it's like you meet them, they're like, "No, we don't shake hands around here. We hug." And you're like, "Oh
Right.
fuck."
You're like, "Oh, great. Get over here," after, like, the 50th person, I was just like, come on over here and hug me, alright,
Yeah,
you fucking
you're like, "It is
sweaty
what it is.
bastard."
I
Yeah.
guess this is what we're just
Yeah.
doing." So
Yep. They're like, "What a surprise to see you here. It's such a surprise." I'm like, "It's a surprise for me too. I didn't know we were on a hugging basis."
what
Like, it's like fucking
I didn't know we were that close. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
I'll
how
hug the fuck out of your wife though, but fucking
well, that's different, right? That's
yeah.
different. Oh,
Um,
I love that. That's funny. Hopefully, you get to the point where dudes are coming up and being like, "Hey, I'd really like you to hug my wife," because they like really buy into the shtick.
yeah,
Like that's
well
when you know you've really made it.
what when I found out that I really made it and I thought about this,
Yeah.
was 1 year in Daytona, probably that same year
Okay.
that you saw me.
Yeah.
A dude comes up to me and says, "Listen, my friend is a giant fan of yours. Can you take a video of just you cursing him out?" Right? And I was like, "Yeah, fuck it. Well, I'll do it." Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Hey Jerry, you fucking piece of white trash ball python fucking fuckhead, you fucking goddamn no
Oh
working
my
twat."
god.
And like 8 people saw me
Yeah.
and they were like, "Oh, you'll do that? Do one for me too, monkey. Do this to my
Oh my
friend Robert." And
god.
and that's when I was like, maybe I could get on Cameo and just charge like $30 a piece. to
Yeah, man.
fucking curse people out, you
I
know?
think I think that's a skill though, because like my wife laughs at me. Like I'm not generally an angry person. Like I'm one of those people that like when I get angry or frustrated, I look ridiculous, and so like people just laugh at me. I'm like, stop it! I'm angry. I feel like you have that skill though. Like if I tried to like put a string of curses together like you do, people would just laugh at me. Like I think you have that skill. I think that's a marketable skill. I think not
Well, the
everybody has
one
that.
thing that I've realized I have that some people don't, especially podcast people, is I
Mhm.
could say stupid, dumb, unintelligent shit and still come off as likable.
Oh yeah. Well,
Okay.
it's funny,
So
right? It's funny.
that's like,
Yeah.
because other people are saying the same shit I do,
Yeah.
and motherfuckers are like, I hate that bastard, you know?
I think it's a
So
lot of the tone and like I think people just yeah, you do. You have a likable personality with that. It's like I've definitely had some people tell me they're like, "Man, that guy's a fucking dick, but he's funny, so I guess I'll keep listening." I'm like, "All right, that's
and
cool.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine. Just buy a fucking shirt, man.
Just
You
buy
know?
a shirt."
I don't give a fuck.
Right?
Um, because these other podcast people are also breeders, so they have
Yeah,
money coming in from the fucking business.
right.
I do. I have two frogs here that wouldn't know how to. I don't even know what sex they are, but fucking, if there is a male and a female,
Yeah.
they're both dumb enough to not know how to fuck.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm
You
just like, but plus I never had frog babies before. Like
yeah,
I never had tadpoles. I don't even
oh,
know
yeah?
where So I have no interest in breeding anymore. You know
Yeah.
what? Like I just don't because this is gonna make me sound like a dick, but a lot of the people kind of ruined it for me.
No, man, it's that's a hard part of it, like, customer service and, like, interacting with individuals, it's tough. It is hard, like, and it does suck sometimes, and they can a couple of bad interactions can absolutely ruin it for everyone, and that's why,
Yeah,
like, I think that's also why it's so important to, not shit on people right off the bat and to try and add a little bit of guidance and not, you know, oh, this new person is coming in with a lot of money. Let's take advantage of them. Like that just fucks the industry as a whole. And it's like you
yeah.
said, like
I don't even know if I would do that. I'd probably take advantage of that motherfucker. Right, like here's what I tell people. I don't even really have friends, okay?
yeah.
I just have people that haven't fucked me yet,
Oh, yeah.
okay? Yeah. And that's really how you gotta look at it because this new wave of fucking dick sucking breeders, just wait until somebody fucks one over,
Yeah.
and the minute that happens and one guy starts cursing out the other guy, you're gonna see a fucking paradigm shift in the way that other breeders talk about other breeders.
I
And it's
think
gonna happen. It can't
oh
not happen.
no, no, I don't think you're wrong. I think there's a little more positivity, but I think that's also because we've had such good sales for the past couple of years.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that things are gonna get leaner. Pricing is gonna adjust back down to what I think is more reasonable and normal. Um, for those who don't know, pricing normally doesn't go up year after year. It did the past 2 years. Morph
right,
started at a certain price in 2019, and they went up in price in 2020, and then went up again in 2021. That's not normal. That I've never seen that happen before.
right,
Normally,
right.
things go down. We're heading down. I'm not saying the market's dead. It's not. There's still lots of money to be made, but the prices are going to go down. Sales are going to slow down a bit. And you're right, man. As people start needing to make money to feed the family, it's gonna get interesting for sure.
Yeah,
I don't.
without doubt. And you just heard a little of your fucking native Texan there where you're
Oh
like,
no,
it's gonna
it's
get
gonna get.
interesting.
It comes out occasionally.
It's gonna get interesting, right?
I think my native Texan came out strongest in our first show we did together at the Arlington show, and talking about shitting out of a hunting lodge and stuff. So
Yeah, that was
yeah,
like 5 or 6 years ago, right?
yeah, it
Like
was a long
fucking
time ago.
it's yeah, Patrick was actually one of my first guests on that show, that particular show. Um and he was talking to me about hunting boars.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was
man.
just like, who the fuck does that? Like I'm
Yeah,
from the Bronx. I never fucking
right.
um but it was funny because my New York is back with me
Hmm.
now, but it wasn't,
Yeah,
10 years ago when I was in LA,
yeah,
like I told you the story before,
yeah.
like fucking, a Con Ed guy is on the news and he's like, "Oh, the fucking pole fell on that fucking girl." And I was like, "Hey, yo, I gotta get you." And I was looking, I turned to my girlfriend and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, do I sound that stupid? And my girlfriend right away was like, "Yeah, you did." She's like, "But you've lost it a little bit, but when you get on the phone with your dumb friends, it
Yeah,
comes back for like 2 or 3 days." And
yeah,
now
man.
that I'm living here, I know
It's
that I haven't,
yeah.
I fucking hate it.
Oh, dude.
Um,
Yeah.
Texas is at least, you got the drawl, it fucking it adds to a guy, whereas
Does it
in New
though?
York, it
Does it
does not.
though? I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think it does, I think
I
it
don't know.
does.
Look, I actually, I was at a wedding with a bunch of New Yorkers a year or 2 ago, and, my mom was like, "So what's it like being around all the New Yorkers?" I'm like, "Honestly, it's the same as being around fucking Texans. It's a bunch of people way too proud of where they come from with funny accents."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
so
the Texas thing
yeah.
definitely rivals the New York.
Oh, yeah.
Like New Yorker first, American second, Texas first, American second.
There
Um,
there's this
eh,
funny picture that I saw growing up my entire life, and it was like a picture of the United States, and it was like Texas, and then everything outside of Texas is Canada. And I'm like,
right.
that's exactly that's exactly how we look
Yeah.
at it. And definitely like the closer I get to the motherland, the more that Texas draw and accent comes back. And
Oh yeah,
my
yeah.
wife my
Fucking.
wife gives me shit nonstop about it. Or same thing. Like I'll talk to friends back home and it starts slipping in, and you're like, oh, uh-oh.
When we were kids, man, we would meet a kid from like an hour away,
Mhm.
and we're like, "Oh, you're up in Canada," and it's like 25 miles, right?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, it's so fucking bad. But listen, where's McKnight Stables going in the next 5 years?
Man, I hope we're growing a lot. So this year we're hoping to do 50 or 60 clutches. What I want to do over the next 2 years is we're buying some property. We're going to be putting up a new facility that's about 2,000 square feet, and hopefully expand to where we're doing 150 to 200 clutches a year. And then also growing the consulting business, and really hoping that as the industry matures, people start also appreciating the value that getting help can really provide. Sometimes just having a second set of eyes to look over your collection and be like, hey, like I think for the most part you're going in the right direction, but maybe if you tweak a few things here, we can add a lot of value. So
Right.
I'm really hoping those two parts can grow quite a bit. And then, the genetic testing is going to change everything. Ben and Sean with RGI, this is a big deal. And if they can pull this off and really make it an industry standard, we're going to see a big shift in the market as a whole, and how animals are produced, and potentially even production numbers. So yeah, that's growing the steak business, growing the consulting stuff, and hopefully be doing significantly more business in the next 4 to 5 years is kind of the goal.
Is the goal to ever be Canova size, or is the goal to kind of make it manageable and just make a living?
Um, man, I think that's I always overdo it. I'm that person that I get into a hobby, and then next thing I know I have 400 snakes. I'm absolutely not opposed to the idea of being like Canova size. I never want to be like Steve or Mike Wilbanks, like those guys. That's too many clutches.
Right.
Steve Mike's doing 3,000 clutches. Steve is doing 1,500 to 2,000. Like that's too much. Realistically, if I have a collection where two or three, my current employees can help me, and we can still manage the collection I'm in. So I think like 150, 200 clutches, like that's about half of what Justin's doing right now. I think he's hitting like 250 to 300.
Right.
I'd be happy at like the 200 on the high end. So,
Yeah, like Garrett DeMeyer size, right?
oh yeah, but
Well,
Garrett,
he's still, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
now he's doing it, but he's hoping to
yeah, he's shrinking it down a
lean
bit
down.
too.
Yeah,
Garrick might be the hardest worker in this industry. I don't know if people appreciate how much work that man has to put in, because I think it's him and one other employee, and then I think his
that's it,
wife.
just one. Yeah,
Yeah, and then his wife now, I believe she stopped teaching, and now she's helping with it as well. But I mean, when you talk to Garrett, like guys, you gotta put some respect on that name. Like that man is up at like 6 in the morning, and he's at the shop till 7 or 8 at night. Like I've never seen someone work harder. It's
right.
crazy. And I literally told him at Tinley, I was like, you need to cut your production by like 25%. like like there's this new company called Rep to Growth. You should talk to them. They can
That's right.
help you.
That's right.
Um,
You should talk to
you
Reptigrowth, man.
should talk to them. But yeah, I'd be really happy at like 150 to 200 clutches.
Okay.
I think producing a lot of really quality stuff in that range allows for the fluctuations in the markets. Obviously, you're going to have the lean years where you're making good income, and then you'll have the really, really good years to where, things, just blow out and you're doing awesome. But, you know, we one of the big things that Andre and I push, and I know some of the other bigger breeders do as well, is like when we talk about clutch size, like clutches, everybody's like, when you talk to breeding, you're like, oh, how many clutches do you have? And they're like, oh, I do like 60 clutches a year. And people put some kind of inherent value on like how good of a business they have based on that. And in reality, like they may have 60 clutches a year, but they're only getting $1,500 a clutch. So are they really doing that well, right? In contrast, like Andre and I are like, we look more at clutch value. So like 150, 200 clutches a year would be like absolutely awesome. But in reality, like the goal is more like doing like 750K to a million in revenue. Like that's actually what
Right.
I'd say my goal is. So like if that means I need to do 200 clutches a year, that's great. If I can do that with 100 clutches, that's, even better. So
Even
it's kind
better.
of
Yeah.
right. And so that's kind of more like what I'd say is like our next big goal for me personally is to start hitting seven figures. When I started this, like in my mind, like doing $100,000 a year in sales was like this magical number. It's like if I hit that, I'm good. I hit that many times over, and now I'm like, okay, this next goal is really what looks like, in my mind, like that's where we're heading. And so that's what I'm hoping we hit in the next 5 years is like starting to get like real, real, real income that we can really start doing some really cool stuff with. So that's the goal of
Okay.
seven figures. We'll see if it happens in 5 years.
Yep. Oh, it happened with Bob Vu, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's the thing, right? Bob started with a good foundation and grew and grew and grew, and look where he's at now. He's crushing it. So I think like it comes down to that, right? If you have a good foundation and you have time, it's doable. It's gonna take work. It's a lot of effort. To people that think it's a get rich quick scheme or you're gonna make $1 million the first year you do it, you're not. I've been putting significant money into this for 4 years now, and I'm not even, making halfway to $1 million a year yet. So it it takes a lot of effort and time, but you can make money at it. It just takes effort, time, and a good
And
strategy to
know-how.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, a good strategy, guys. The biggest like I'm not saying. Oh man, how do I say this without? I don't think like when people are like, "Oh, this guy's my mentor." Like I hate it when people use that because sometimes it's not like true. Like you're just nagging them. Like leave them alone. Um, but like I think finding a network where everybody around you is legitimately better at what they're doing than you is the best way to succeed. If I walk into a room and I'm the worst person in that room, that means all I can do is learn. And I think that's the
Right.
situation you want to be in. So like for people that are aspiring and trying to do this, like find those networks where people are making significantly more and look at what they're doing and kind of like not leech off of them, but learn
Right.
from them. What like when I looked at like what does Justin do that helps him be successful? What does Garrick do that helps him be successful? What did Bob do that helps him be Steve? Like I look at all of these people, what does JT do? And you take bits and pieces from all that and try and build yourself into your own success. So I think that's also like one of the biggest things of advice is
Well,
like
yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future,
that's it. Dude,
It
100%.
so, all right, well, how
Yeah,
could
man.
people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so for snake sales, especially like ball pythons and hog noses, Macknight Stables, it's Instagram and Facebook, and then we have a website with a contact form, and it's also at macknightstables.com. Um, you can find us at macknightstables at gmail. If you just want to email us, that's fine too. My phone number is on my Morph Market, which is also Macknight Stables. You're welcome to call or text. I will absolutely ignore every phone call and text after 11 o'clock at night till 8 o'clock in the morning. So if you text me and I don't answer and it's 2 in the morning, it's not because I hate you. It's because I don't want to talk to you. Um, as far as the reptile consulting stuff goes that Andre and I are doing, hopefully, well, no, by time this episode airs, we will absolutely have a website up that you'll be able to reach out to us through, and it'll be reptogrowth.com. We'll have an email, info@reptogrowth.com. And then we'll have social media under the same name as well. You'll be able to reach out to us all through those avenues. We'll have forms that basically you'll be able to fill out and give us a general idea of what services you're looking for. And then we can build custom plans based on what you're needing to help you succeed. And we do everything from just looking over your collection and giving you ideas that we'd recommend to sell based on the projects, breeding plans. We'll give you recommendations on animals we think you should probably purchase. Definitely animals that you can purchase from other breeders. Um, We're working with contracts right now with providers of things like substrates and other services to hopefully get our customers discounts. So there's a lot we're going to be able to do. Hopefully, we're still working through some of that. So
Cool. Well, brother, thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it.
no, man, thanks for having me. I love it. It's great.
Well, fucking, hang out for 2 minutes,
Yeah,
and I'm just gonna throw you back into the green room and play this stupid bumper again because you deserve to fucking get your shit fucking played twice.
appreciate you,
So,
bud.
all right, brother, just hold on for a minute, all right?
Will do. Thanks.
All right, man. This dude fucking got his shit together, huh? I mean, this is the guy. He was saved to last for a fucking reason, man. We gave him, way more fucking time than we did everybody else. But hopefully, you'll fucking learn something from him. Check it out, macknightstables.com. Check out Rep to Growth, and that's really it. When I see you next, we're actually going to start season 2 of Where Are They Now with the people from season 2 of 15 Minutes of Lane. So thanks again, guys. Have a happy holiday because I know this is airing around the holiday time. And we'll fucking go from there. I'll talk to everybody soon. Thanks for fucking the love and thanks for staying for all of these dumb little shorts that we're doing that I really had a great time. So all right, take it easy, guys.